Hello YouTube, welcome to another episode of Murphy's Law. This one is a special episode. This is the first episode of Rarely Worth It. This is going to be the review show I was telling you about, where I take a look at some of the rarer, uncommon games and expensive games, which sometimes are not rare, and talk about whether or not they are worth the price that they cost to own. And if there is maybe another way to acquire them later, whether it's a compilation package or a download on a virtual console or some kind of re-release. So that's what we'll be looking at. I do have a game for you today, but first I'd like to talk a little bit about what makes a game rare, what makes a game valuable, and so forth, and then we'll get into the review. So first, some games that are very desirable cost a certain amount of money, but are not really rare. Sometimes they get hit with a nostalgia tax. Someone remembers the series, someone knows the series is popular, so it gets amped up. Now, we all know that Mario Brothers Duck Hunt is probably one of the most common games on Earth, or at least you should anyway. It should not cost anybody over $3. I've got 3 copies sitting in my case right now that I just acquired because everyone has one. Everyone has them and they're easy to get. So they shouldn't cost a lot of money at all. Like if I owned a store, I'd sell them for $1. They're that common. Other games, which are almost as common, like the Zelda, the original Legend of Zelda for Nintendo, the gold card. People think this is worth an insane amount of money. This is a very desirable game. It is a very good game. It is not very rare. There are thousands of these things flying around. You can find one anywhere. You get on eBay and you can find 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pages of people selling this game. It's not rare. It should not cost any more than maybe like $10 at the most. I've seen them go for up to $30 because people attach a nostalgia to them. They think that they need them. And then, of course, the eBay sellers who put rare after everything jack up the price as well, and that's a problem. So this game is not rare. Its counterpart, the gray cart, is a little bit more uncommon, and that's the one that should be costing like $20. Maybe not even. I've never actually looked up the price of one. I've never tried to buy one. But that one is actually less common than the collector's edition gold card. This is not true for every Zelda. Games like Ocarina of Time, there's more gray ones and gold ones floating around out there. But this is not rare. And people put rare after it because it says Zelda on it. And everyone knows everyone loves Zelda. If a game is made over 1 million copies and sold over 1 million copies, the game isn't rare. It shouldn't be considered rare. That's my opinion. Then there's other examples of it, like Super Smash Brothers. That game goes for $30 to $60 sometimes, depending on how crazy the seller is and how crazy the buyer is. And it's just not needed. It's not a rare game. It's really, really sought after. People want it, but it ain't rare. Sorry to burst your bubble. So that's what I'm going to be getting into. Each episode will be done like a regular review. I'm going to look at the gameplay, the music, the story, the replayability, the graphics for the time. Don't worry, I'm not going to try and compare them to anything now. These are all going to be older games, 16, 32, maybe some CD-based games. So don't worry about that. I'm going to go through a normal review, tell you about it, give you my opinion of it, because I'm going to try and do things that I've played. Some of the more harder to track down games I may use an emulator on. Usually don't like to use emulators, I like to play the real thing, but if I don't own a copy of the game and the game is like $300 to own, you're probably going to get my opinion based on an emulated version that I played. And then the last category will be, is it worth it? Is it worth the amount of money? And that's really what I want to get into. I'm not trying to discourage anybody from collecting. Please don't get that opinion. If you are a collector going after a complete Nintendo collection or a complete Super Nintendo collection, you're going to have to drop some serious dough. And I'm not trying to discourage you from that. I'm saying, as someone who buys games that just wants to play and not strictly for the sake of collecting, I do collect. I have a huge collection. If you've watched my other videos, you've seen. But I like to play the games I collect. I only have games that I will at one point play or have played in my past, or that have some kind of special emotional attachment to me. Everything else I trade or sell off because I don't need it. So if you're going for a complete collection, if you're a completist, if you just want to have every rare game ever, great. I'm not trying to discount that. I'm not trying to take that away from you. You go after it. I think it's really awesome. People like, like the Angry Video Game Nerd who has, every Nintendo game ever. Jay and Rob from the NES Club, the documentary that they're filming where he's trying to get all 700 Nintendo games over the next 30 days. I think he's halfway through his time limit right now. That's cool. Those are cool endeavors. They're not for me, So that's where I want to take it. I want to take a look at the gameplay and the actual game behind these crazy prices that people charge for these games. So we will just get into our first game right now then. Alright, so the game we're going to be looking at today is Earthbound. I do own a copy of this. I'll get it as close to the camera as I can. I've been playing this actually for the last couple of days. I think I'm about halfway through the game. I haven't beaten it yet. But I wanted to refresh my memory because I've played it before to talk to you guys about it. So I've been playing that for the last couple of days. Excuse if my eyes deviate because I'm bad at memorizing things short term, so I'm going to be reading from a list of facts that I have on it. So Earthbound was released in June 5th, 1995 for the Super Nintendo. I do know that it is the second in a game series, actually. It comes from a series of games called Mother over in Japan. The first one was for a regular Nintendo. The third one, which was originally planned for the Nintendo 64, actually came out as a Game Boy Advance game because the project got scrapped. So there's 3 of them total. Earthbound is the second one. Mother 2, subtitle Earthbound. That's the one that we got. It did not sell well right away. So it became a cult hit afterwards. The people who bought it enjoyed it, most of them anyway. Critics usually seem to lean towards in favor of the game. But it didn't sell well away. RPGs were not a big seller back then, not as big as platformers like Sonic and Mario. Even puzzle games, I think, had a little bit of a higher following than RPGs. There were not many back then. There was Final Fantasy, Dragon Warrior, a handful of others, games like Chrono Trigger and Secret of Mana. And then Earthbound came, and nobody knew what to think of it. The people that bought it, like I said, enjoyed it. The critics seemed to enjoy it. Overall, it's a good game. We'll get into that in a minute. More recently, it was released on the Virtual Console, July this year, for the Wii, so it's the first time it's been re-released. It's developed by Ape and House Studios, House Studios being the guys that brought you Kirby, I believe. So yeah, that's the history behind it. We never got American versions of Mother 1 or 3. I know there's hacks out there and reproductions of the game with the English translations built into them, so those are pretty cool to own. I don't have any of them. I never played any of the other Mother games. I have played this one, so let's just get right into it. So the game itself is an RPG. There are 4 characters. There's not more than that to pick from. You don't switch your party out at all. Oh, excuse me. There's Ness, Paula, Jeff, and Pooh. I didn't make up the names. You can change the names. It actually asks you to name all 4 characters at the beginning of the game. It also asks you to pick your favorite thing, and whatever you type in is Ness, the main character's first special move that he gets. So you can put whatever you want, and then it becomes your first special attack. It revolves around the 4 kids trying to fight aliens, actually. So it's set in a modern time. Unlike most of the other RPGs of that era were set in fantasy times with swords and stuff, it's set in modern times. So you use a telephone call to your dad to save. You use an ATM to get your money out. Every time you defeat an enemy, that translates into cash that your father deposits into your account while you're on your adventure. And much like other RPGs starring 12-year-old kids, your parents don't care that you're traveling the world alone with no money. You have psychic powers instead of magic in this one. So you have psychic attacks, and they're saying, like, Paula uses she's the mage of the group. She has a lot of offensive attacks, fire, ice. She can blind them, stuff like that. Ness is kind of a middle ground. He can use a really good physical attacks, but he also has some magic, or well, psychic abilities. In this one, like I said, he gets the special attack that you have, but he also has some support activities. Jeff does not have any magic at all. He's not psychic. He is a genius in the game, and he uses that to use different machines to back up his team. So he has, every once in a while you're playing the game, you'll pick up a broken something, and if you sleep, when you go to sleep, which is, healing, when you sleep at a hotel, which is the same thing as an inn, during the night, Jeff will fix these things, and they become useful items. There's items like HP suckers, there's items like to suck the psychic points away, which is PP, I believe. And then he can make his own weapons as well. Like he gets a laser gun at one point. And that's another thing. The weapons are all modern. So you have bats, slingshots, yo-yos, which is why he uses a yo-yo in Smash Brothers, frying pans, paintball guns, I think, or it calls it an air gun, which is probably like a pellet gun, and then the laser gun. And then the items like healing are like hamburgers and candy bars and soda and drinks and ketchup and whatever else the game wants to throw at you. It did have one thing going for it that a lot of RPGs didn't at the time. It was a seamless world, much like Pokemon is set up. So there wasn't an overworld like in the Final Fantasy games where you go into a town or into a dungeon. Everything was seamless. Every town led to the next town. Every dungeon led somewhere else, or you came back out of the dungeon. So all of the screens flowed together really nicely. The towns are all connected with parts in between them. The graphics for the game were pretty good for the time. I like the way the overworld works. I'd say I'd put it at Game Boy Advance Pokemon graphics, probably, if I had to think of it, because it's kind of a top-down angled view like Pokemon is. So that's where I had to put it. The only thing I had a problem with was the battle system. Now, in the other RPGs that I talked about, I'm going to keep using Final Fantasy as an example because that's one of my favorite series, minus the recent iterations anyway. In Final Fantasy, when you attack, your characters do stuff. He runs over and with the sword, or like the summons in 2 and the special moves in 3. Those were, things to keep you entertained while you were battling. However, in Earthbound, nothing moves. You don't see your characters at all during the battle sequence. You only see a stagnant picture of whatever the enemy is. It flashes when it's hit, and there is some very colorful arrays of what's going on while you're battling. Like when you use your psychic attacks, things happen, but nothing moves, and you can't see your characters, so it's a little disengaging. But overall, the game is good. So I would give the gameplay a 4 out of 5. Like I said, there's a good amount of hours behind it. There's a lot to do. There's a lot of side quests. There's a lot of things to figure out. A replayability, for me, personal opinion, 3 out of 5. I don't usually play RPGs over. There are a few that I have, but I don't usually play them over. So as long as you go through and do everything in one run, then to me there's not much reason to play it again unless it's been a long time, like a couple of years or whatever, and you want to give it a shot. Graphics, like I said, 4 out of 5. Those are great. Like I said, they're really great. The only thing that keeps it away from a 5 out of 5 is the battle system. Because while the battle system is fun, and it is, you have all the options that you do for other RPGs, it's just not as engaging to me. There needs to be stuff going on besides flashing lights. Personally, that's just my personal opinion. Music, it's a solid 5 out of 5. Each town has its own theme. Not the overworld, but the battle system has its own theme. When you die, there's a theme. Even when you rest at a hospital or rest at a hotel, the music changes the next day. It's like doo 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 doo, happy good morning kind of music. So it's very cool. The amount of music that's in it is very great. Now, is it worth it? That's where I have a problem. This game goes for upwards of $200 on eBay. It shouldn't. It's not super rare. I would put this at a rating of uncommon. I wouldn't call it rare. It's not super rare. It is, it's right in between the uncommon rare range. It's not hard to find. If you go onto eBay right now and do a search for Earthbound, you're going to find at the minimum 10 results. Probably a lot more. There's a lot of people selling it. It should not be $200. If you have that many options to get it from, then you shouldn't have to pay that much. This is not how supply and demand works. If everybody wants it and everybody has it, then it shouldn't cost that much. If I can get bananas at any grocery store, bananas don't cost that much. That's why they're only 88 cents a pound. If I can go onto eBay and find 20 different people selling this, they shouldn't have to pay them all $200. Some of them should be competing for our money because people buy things and eBay inflates the prices. That's why this game costs so much. It is very sought after. It's a high collectible. A lot of collectors want it in their collection, especially since it is a good game. But it's not worth the $200 price. Like I said at the beginning, the alternate way to play the game legally would be the Virtual Console. It came out on Wii. You can buy it on the Wii or the Wii U Virtual Console for $10 and play it legally without having to fork over $200 to $300. Now, that being said, the guide and the box to the game are much more rare. the guide and the box together cost more than the game by itself. It's very hard to find a complete one of these copies. Not everyone kept this. When this game originally came out, it came with the game. It came with a very large box that had the guide and some stickers and some scratch and sniff cards inside of it. They really packed this thing full of extras for a game that came out, you know, for a Super Nintendo game. I do not believe there's a small box version of it, you know, the regular Super Nintendo box, however big those dimensions are. I don't think there's a regular version of it. So the box and manual, that is rare. That is very hard to find. I personally would not pay $700 for a piece of cardboard and a guide that I can look up on the internet. But for people who want complete things and boxed games, then that's where it's going to come from. So that's my final judgment of the game. Overall score, I give it a 5 out of 5. Boop, boop, that's 10. Just kidding, 5. I give it a 5 out of a 5. I really, really hope you enjoyed this new format for me. It's going to go alongside my pickup videos. I'm not done with pickup videos. I just want to give you something else to break up the monotony of showing you the things that I picked up. I'm going to work on these. I'm going to try and memorize my facts a little bit better and throw in as much as I can. Hopefully, if all my editing went right, then up in this corner here, you should see some gameplay while I'm talking so that you have something else to pay attention to instead of my stupid face. If you like this, let me know. Like the video, comment, subscribe. Let me know what extra things you'd like me to take a look at, what extra things you'd like me to do in the comments below, and I will take that all into consideration for the next review. I have no idea what game I'm going to do next, but I finally got a new laptop, I finally got a new webcam, and I am now going to be able to do some more higher quality reviews. The lighting should be a lot better. I've got a poster hung up in the background related to video games. I thought I'd be able to fit 2. I won't, so I'm going to use this space for the gameplay. And I'm really hoping that this show's going to go up in quality and go up in viewership, and I really want to get some interaction, and I want to be like those big guys where if I ask you a question, I get like 300 responses, and we get a nice dialogue going. I know gamers are awesome people. I'm one of you. So yeah, that's my goals for the future of this show. Hope you enjoyed it. Sorry for rambling. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to stop this video and do some editing now. And as always, fight evil, play video games.